Hey everyone, it's John here from Hot Take Hockey, back with another video. My final pre-season predictions for the standings, the playoffs, as you see a bracket here, and then we're going to go over some award predictions as well. If you're a new subscriber, welcome, or if you've been subscribed to the channel, thank you for supporting, and make sure you drop your comments down below, hit the like button, notification bell so you get notified when I go live or post videos. So, I already posted my kind of early, like a few weeks back, standing predictions, what I thought for an early Stanley Cup winner and things like that. So based on that, I'm just going to jump right into a bracket. When I say preseason, I mean, as I'm recording this tonight, it's Tuesday night, NHL games. Of course, the two games of the Devils, Sabres in Prague, that happened already, but official North American NHL games in the season start tonight. So I'm going to record my final thoughts. And as you guys can see, if you watched my video, a lot of it is the same or similar. The couple debates for me internally were, okay, could Ottawa be here? I think they can. I think Ottawa's probably right there scratching on the surface, but I still can't sway away from those top four teams in the Atlantic Division based on what we've seen. I still think Tampa's good enough, and Vasilevsky and Hedman should have bounce back years. The Stamkos thing, we'll see, but they got Gensel. So I think Tampa's good enough to be in a wild card spot. We will see. Pittsburgh, I just can't see Crosby missing the playoffs 3 years in a row. So Washington's been able to squeak in. I could see them missing again, but at the same time, I feel like I'm happier with Washington's improvements and changes more than Pittsburgh's. But at the same time, I can't see Crosby missing the playoffs 3 years in a row. So there's that balance, right? That's why I have Pittsburgh, Washington, Ottawa, Detroit, like honestly any team, frankly. Philadelphia, I could see even Montreal in a scenario where Patrick Laine comes back in December. You never know. There's a bunch of teams. Even, like I said, I think Columbus could surprise us at some points in the year. My point is, I think the wild card is going to be a battle. I think the Atlantic Division is going to be spread out by maybe 5 to 10 points towards the end of the year. I have Pittsburgh squeaking in as the wild card too. Like I said, they've been right there the last couple of years. I can't see Crosby missing a third year in a row. So I've got them playing the number one seed Florida Panthers. I think Toronto-Boston might get a rematch again, as crazy and dumb as that is. Toronto might get the home ice advantage, and maybe that gives them an advantage in the series just based on having that home ice versus other years where maybe they haven't. Again, I honestly don't even have that excuse because Toronto struggled on home ice as well. Like, they lost both in game 3 and 4, which set them back in the series to begin with. So the home stuff for Toronto, to me, it's a big excuse. Rangers, Lightning could be a really fun matchup. And then Devils, Islanders, I like that a lot. Stars finish the top of the Central Division. They play the wild card 2 team, which is the Winnipeg Jets. I could see the Jets being a seller at the trade deadline depending on how their season goes, but I think they're good enough to be in the playoffs. Like, Hellebuck's there, their defense is solid enough, and I like Josh Morrissey big time, and I mean their forward depth is really good. So I think the Jets are good enough to be in that playoff spot, maybe not in the division spot. And then I'm really confident on that top 3 in the Central. Chicago I have as my hot take. Okay, you know what? I've changed. I've gone back and forth. I honestly think this is a really crazy hot take to go on about, but my point is, I think when you look at that Central Division, I really think there's so many different ways they could go about. Like, I know a lot of people have put Minnesota, Chicago, St. Louis at the bottom. I could look like an idiot and Chicago be right at the basement, but I think Bedard's going to have a big year. I think they built more around him. It really comes down to goaltending here for me. We'll see. We will see. I think Bedard's in that upper echelon. I could see Chicago making the playoffs. Again, it's a huge hot take. I think Seattle has a good chance to go into the playoffs. So, as you guys can see from my bracket last year, let's just do a copy and paste here. If there's one team that I could see just going in on that wildcard 1, it's Seattle. But they're in the Pacific, and I think the Pacific might be on a hold for the division spots rather than wildcards. I think both wildcards could come from the Central, and I would not be surprised. Again, huge hot take, and I also could see, frankly, Chicago here instead and Winnipeg here, and I actually might do that as my final prediction, just having Winnipeg out of the respect for how good of a roster they've had and still have. So I'll make that change, actually, just thinking about it, because I'm pretty sure I had Chicago with lower points than Winnipeg, so we'll make that swap. But again, Bedard versus McDavid would be a lot of fun. But again, I could see Seattle in there somewhere. So Seattle's my honorable mention. And LA is also my honorable mention. Again, I'm not trying to crap on the Kings. I'm not high on them. We'll see what Darcy Kemper is this season. Drew Doughty's injury is a big loss. That's kind of where my head's at. So I think the Kings could just miss. So going based on this, again, I think Winnipeg-Edmonton would be a really fun matchup. I'm going to go Edmonton advances. And I'm going to go we get a rematch of Edmonton and Vancouver. And I think I had Vegas before. I think either way, guys, we can make Canucks fans happy. I think Edmonton's going to the conference final. I just want to put it out there, right? I might change my cup winner here. We'll see. But on the Central side, again, maybe it's boring, but I am going to go Dallas Stars win. And I'm going to go Nashville upsets Dallas. I'm going to go Nashville's experience takes them all the way to the conference final. All right? And then Florida, Pittsburgh. I think as much as Crosby and Pittsburgh could get Florida off their edge, I don't know, Stanley Cup hangover, I'm still going to say they advance. I'm going to say Toronto advances, gets the revenge on Boston. It's going to happen one year, but I mean, again, people are going to call me an idiot. Florida beats Toronto. As it stands right now, guys, I can't have Toronto beating Florida. I've thought about it. Florida's just built better in the playoffs. Toronto has the bite. We'll see if Hakanpää's healthy. We'll see if some of these guys are healthy. It might help Toronto beat the Panthers in the second round. I hope that this is the scenario and Toronto goes right to the conference final. Rangers, Lightning. I am going to go Rangers. I'm going to go Rangers, and I'm going to go Devils. Again, I kind of want to see Islanders, Rangers in a playoff series this year, but I think Devils go on to play the Florida Panthers. And you know what, guys? I'm changing it up here. I am going to go Nashville beats Edmonton. You know what? I'm making a statement. I think Edmonton's ultimately my Stanley Cup favorite, but I want to see something interesting. I want to see something crazy, and I'll go back to the Devils winning the Stanley Cup. I think it's close, though. Like, I think Edmonton could be right there. That's my second. I think if Edmonton gets to the Cup final, they're winning. That's my take. So ultimately, Edmonton is my Cup pick. But if Edmonton loses anywhere on this road and New Jersey or Florida get there, the East are winning. I think the East are winning the Stanley Cup this year if it's not Edmonton. So Edmonton's ultimately my Cup pick, guys. I'm putting that out there. I'm putting that back out there. I saw all the analysts like on Sportsnet and on these platforms picking Edmonton, so I didn't want to go so boring. I do see a scenario where it's maybe a New Jersey Nashville Cup final. New Jersey wins. I'm going to pick the East side. But if Edmonton gets to the Cup final, guys, it's just I'm very confident in it. I can't see them losing if they get back there the way they were last year. So let's go through these awards on Bleacher Report. Give it a shout. Go to the bottom here. And so their Hart pick is McDavid. I think that's a fine pick. My hot take for Hart, though, and again, this is up for debate, but I think this is a good hot take in terms of what I just showed, and I think Jack Hughes is a hot take for Hart. I think McDavid should win it. He's going to be in that conversation every year. My hot takes, though, would be Jack Hughes, and then my ballot, if I had to do a ballot, a winner, and then two picks, McDavid would be in the mix, and then my other two guys, Jack Hughes and Connor Bedard. Honestly, I think if Chicago makes the playoffs, Connor Bedard is going to be in that conversation. Norris Trophy, Cale Makar, again, that's the easy kind of go-to there. I'm going to go my second pick. Like I said, if I'm going all in on Nashville, I think Roman Josi could be right back in there. I think he has better defense structured around him. I think Josi's going to have a big year again. And then if I could go a third, again, maybe this is a really, really big hot take, but do I want to go in this direction? So I'll go with it. I think when you're talking about the East and you're talking about all these good defensemen, like whether Victor Hedman's been obviously a big conversation, like Gustav Forsling, what he's just done. But I'm going to go Charlie McAvoy. I think McAvoy could be in that conversation. I think Boston's going to have a big year. McAvoy's built around a really good defense group. I think his offense could maybe be allowed to go a little bit more this year. So I'll go Charlie McAvoy as my other pick for the Norris. Vezina. Honestly, guys, I'm not on the Swayman train. I think he's missed preseason. I think he's going to have a slow start. So I'm going to disagree with this one as much as he could be in the conversation. I just gave Boston some love with McAvoy. But my Vezina picks, I'm going to go Vasilevsky's in there as the bounce back. I'm going to go... this is tough. I'll go definitely Vasilevsky. I'll go Jake Ottinger in Dallas. And then I'll go Ilya Sorokin has a big bounce back. Those are my 3 Vezina candidates. Calder, I think Matvei Michkov. I don't disagree with that one. I'm going to go Michkov for sure. If I could go one more take, again, just thinking about across the league. Yeah, I mean, Macklin Celebrini is probably another boring answer. Outside of that, honestly, my hot take would be maybe Recker McGroarty surprises us and quiets the doubters. And I think for both Recker McGroarty and Cutter Gauthier, I feel like those teams, like Winnipeg is going to give McGroarty some rough shouts, and especially when they play against each other in Winnipeg. And then when Cutter Gauthier plays in Philly, all bets are off. So we'll see. Selke, yeah, I'm going to stick with Barkov, probably. If I could go in a different direction, I think Elias Lindholm has a real chance being on the top line in Boston. I think Elias Lindholm has a chance to be back in that conversation. Talked about that with Kevel, and I think if Matthews and Marner both could frankly be in that conversation. But I'll go Barkov and Lindholm as my number 2. Rocket, yeah, Matthews should be there. Yeah, I'll stick with Matthews winning the Rocket. There's no one there that's pushing against at this time, but you never know. Draisaitl, McDavid, you never know what they do. Jack Adams, Jared Bednar, I like that pick. Honestly, I think if New Jersey does finish high in the standings, Keefe could be there, and that'd be pretty ironic and hilarious. Bednar, I like the pick. If I could go one more, I'll go... No, honestly, I'll stick with Bednar as my 1-2 punch with Keefe. That's fine. If I go hot take, I think Jim Montgomery has a lot with Boston, so he could be back in that conversation. All right, guys, thank you so much. Let me know your Stanley Cup pick before the regular season starts. Thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it. This was John from Hot Take Hockey. Comment your predictions, and we'll see you this regular season throughout videos and streams. Peace.